Welcome everyone. Our first step is to create a new game. So let's go over here to the right hand side and create new game. We're going to create a blank new template with 3D and we can just call this Hunt Gather 3D Edition. We'll hit create. Once we're in, the first thing we want to do is start setting up some of the settings and configuration. So let's do that. Let's head over to our configurations at the editor over here. And the first thing we'll do is take a look at the engine version and see if everything is right. Okay, so for our client physics engine, we're going to make sure that this is on Rapier 3. We're going to scroll down a little bit and everything looks pretty decent, but we want gravity, so let's add some gravity. So we're going to do -100 because we want our guy to, well, fall downwards, right? All right, let's go to the rendering now and let's take a look. Okay. Sorry, before we head to our rendering, let's make sure we go over here and change to 3.003. Here we go. And let's save and close before we go on to the rendering. And make sure we go to the editor. And here we go. Now in here, we're going to make sure the rendering filter is on smooth. And go to the shadow and keep it either low or simple. You don't really want high because that might deter our game a little bit. Okay, now the fun part is the camera settings. Now for the default zoom, we're going to do 5. The pitch is kind of like the angle. So you can, you're more than welcome to try the, or look at the description here, but we're going to be doing 90. And then here we're going to do 0, so that's already good. Here we're going to do 3, just to make it a little faster. And that's good. So let's save and close and then publish. Okay, so now we have our game here. Play, but obviously we can't move. So this is pretty much it for our configuration. So the last thing we want to do to make sure our player is kind of proper and right, because the camera is not exactly what we want, we want to head over to the homie and we want to change 2 things first to set this up. The first will be the cell sheet, right? So this guy, not exactly what we want. So let's upload our model. Let's go to upload. To upload from computer and upload our 3D character. All right, so here you go. I've uploaded my character. Now, if you're wondering, these assets, all the assets related to this series will be down in the description below. So go download them if you haven't already. And once we've uploaded our character, we'll just hit submit and we have our new character. Now, the more important part is the camera. This is where we're going to enable the locker point or the pointer lock. So we can actually have our mouse kind of locked in. And then what we'll do is we're going to change the pitch kind of right around here. You can kind of play around with this number or just kind of play around with this dragging. And then here for the Z, we're going to do 2. So it's not right on top of us. We'll hit save and apply and we'll have to republish here. And here we go. We now have our camera where we can rotate around him. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, it's a little buggy because I have my highlighter on my mouse, but that's okay. But if you guys don't have a highlighter, your mouse should kind of look as if it's stuck in the middle. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now rotate relatively smoothly, but we'll work on rotating and movement in the next part. All right, so the next step, if we want to actually make our player move, well, we need to go to the editor or sorry, what am I doing? Going to the editor. We need to go to our player, open up our player, controls, head down to the client-side predicted movement, and simply disable this. Okay, and then also in the control scheme, we simply need to change this to relative to units rotation. Let's save and reinitialize here. And now we have our player rotate on our mouse, which is awesome, right? So that's pretty much it for the rotation of our player. And let's go to the next section. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is head over to our homie back again, and we're going to set up the animations. Now, setting up animations in this model is actually very easy because all we need to do is add a new animation here, and we can actually drop this here, and we can see we have some already. Now, here we can use, let's say, walk, and rename this to move, and we can create one more, and we're actually not going to create one. We're going to use the use one. So this is the use, the use, and we're going to use the attack animation. So when we use, use an item, we're going to attack. Now the loop will do infinite, so infinite, and then duration will do 0.5, and we'll put this on true. Now that we've done that, we now want to create a variable that will tell us if we're shooting or if we're actually using an item. What we'll do is head over to the environments, and we'll go to the entity variables, add new, go to key, and we'll say is shooting. This will be a Boolean. Go to save. Actually, by default, we'll set this to false. And yeah, there we go. It already saved. So we'll close. Now in our start using item, we're actually going to change this to just use item. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to add a if statement. And we're going to do a Boolean comparison. So the right-hand side will be false. But the left, we're going to change this to, well, we want to essentially get our variable, right? So we'll say variable and say entity variable. So we want to say this entity, right? The variable we're looking for is shooting. So if the is shooting variable is false, then we can use the item. So what we can do here is say set variable. So we'll say set variable is shooting of this entity as true. So once we're using this item, we will set this to true. So that way we don't repeatedly get into this if statement, right? Okay, now we can move this inside of here, and we'll do one more thing, which is going to be play the animation. We'll say play entities animation. We'll say this entities, and then here we'll say the use animation. Okay, so we can do this first, and that's basically it. Now we do need to kind of do similar thing though in the stop using. So we'll actually just copy this, paste, but the stop using, we're going to put this in the else do, and we're going to change this to true. Here we go. So if this is true, we're going to stop doing stuff. So what we need to do is instead of this, let's actually just delete these guys. We'll keep that, but we'll change this to false. We'll set it back to false. And then here we can just remove this. But then another thing we'll need to do is stop animation. We'll stop playing entities animation. We'll say this entity of the animation type use. There we go. So we'll stop the animation that we're currently playing once we're finished using the item. And then what we can do is that the variable is shooting, and we will stop using the item. There we go. That's it. So now we are able to stop using the item, but we need to make sure that these scripts are actually being applied. So let's make sure we save and apply here. And let's head over to the controls for our homie. Now in here, this is where the use item is happening, right? So here inside of these guys, you can see that it's going to run the script use item. Then on key release, it's going to stop using the item. So we should now be able to give this a try. Let's publish. Okay, now you can see when I attack, we're attacking, but it never stops. Now what's happening is we essentially never really set the new animation. So let's do that, right? So here, maybe we can just copy this guy, the play, and in the stop at the bottom, we will paste, and instead of playing the use, we'll play the default. The default, by the way, need to set that as well. So make sure you go into here, go to the default and select the idle. All right. So let's select that. We'll hit republish. All right. And here we go. We now have an attack that only happens once, but we do need to make sure we only set the loop count to 1. That was my mistake. We need to make sure that it's not infinite. Otherwise, it'll obviously just silly. And yeah, there we go. We now have an attack. All right. That's it for this video. In the next video, we will take a look at probably AI and adding weapons and stuff and HP bars. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video and uh, all right, welcome back. In this video or part, we'll be taking a look at how we can set up our AI. So let's head into the Entities tab, and we're going to create a new unit. The unit that we're going to create is going to be a top-down unit. And from here, we'll simply head over to the AI tab and select True. Now in here, we'll select all the things that we want. So here, we'll select Flee, select Wander for the idle behavior. For the max attack range, we'll say 6.25, even though this guy won't actually attack. We'll keep this on simple, and then we'll keep the sensor radius to 2.34375, which is times 2 pi. And then here, we'll say none, and that's it. Now, for the rest of this, it's pretty much just, AI stuff. So we can actually remove the key bindings. We don't need any of that. For the effects, we will be adding stuff here eventually, specifically like blood effects and, stuff where you die, something happens, right? But for now, we don't have that yet, so we're just going to leave this. For the tween, we could select recoil, but there's a chance that this might not be working in your version, so make sure that you're up to date on the version engine. And now let's finally pop in our sheep. So first, let's actually rename this to sheep. And we'll upload our cell sheet, upload from computer, and upload the sheet or the sheep GLB file from all the file assets that you linked or that you downloaded. All right, once you've downloaded your sheep GLB, we can hit submit. And here we go. There's our sheep. Now, from here, we can start to add other things. So maybe for the animation, we can add a move animation here. And then here we can just say walk. And yeah, and just leave everything here. Save the animation here. For default, what do you think the default would be? Well, it would be idle. You can hit save. And the rest of this, you can pretty much change. So the speed we can change maybe to like 3. And then the health, we can change this to 25 maybe, because that's probably how much health they would have. Now, if we want to show this guy, we can display unit to friendly, natural, and hostile. And then the rest you can adjust yourself. For the unit bar style, that's also something you could adjust yourself. But I'm going to leave everything by default and just hit save and apply. Now the question becomes, well, how do we add these guys? Because we added it, or we created this sheet, but we don't know if it works. We have some scripts. Let's actually delete all these. We don't need this guy. Right, but how do we make sure this works, right? How do we add it, right? We need to add this in the world script. So let's head over to our world script here, and we will simply spawn units. Now, how do we do this? We'll create a new script, add a new visual script. We'll say on creeps. And in here, we'll say every second. Now, all we need to do is essentially say, have a while statement. While the current amount of sheep is less than a certain number, then we'll do something. So we're going to do a number comparison. And here we'll do less than. We could do equal. It doesn't really matter. We'll just do less than 20. So we'll say less than. Hit OK. Go over here. Let's select this number, say 20. And then go over here. And the left-hand side, we need to say number of unit type. And we'll say the number of the units. We'll say the number of sheep. OK. And there we go. So while the number of units of sheep is less than 20, well, we'll simply create unit at position. So here we can say create the sheep for AI1 for now, at position, but for the position, we'll say a random position in region. And the region, we'll probably need to make one, but for now we can say entire map region. And then for this, we can just say 0, it doesn't really matter, and hit OK. And let's save and apply and republish and see what we get. All right, once we're in, we can actually see that we have the sheep, but you may not. Now, why is that? Well, because in our entities, what would have happened for you is the sheep are being created and it is kind of technically working, but they were falling through the floor and you would not have even seen them. So there's two things we need to make sure are right. In the body type, you need to make sure that all of these are set properly for the original value. And then for the Z index, make sure that we have floor and depth 1. For the lock rotation, we'll do X and Y. And then the more important part is the collision editor. This is what is actually colliding with the game. Now, once you select this guy by left clicking, you'll see here what the collides with. Yours will be empty or grayed out. Hopefully, maybe not. If they are, then make sure they are blue. And then here, if you want to just do fit render, you can. I think it's pretty good, right? It makes it actually fit the uh, box of our sheep. And that's it. So you can just hit save and apply. And that's it. Now, there is one more issue. You can see that the health is 25 out of 100. And that is my fault because here we did not change the max to 25. So we need to make sure we change that max there back to 25. So once you've done that, make sure you save and republish. And now we should get this result where we have our sheep running around. And yeah, there we go. And we can attack them, but nothing happens. So let's take a look at how we can add some interaction with that. All right, so in order to actually attack anything, we need to now create a weapon, right? So to do that, what we'll do is head over to the Items tab, go to New Item, and we'll do Melee Weapon, and let's pop in our weapon. So let's upload. Once you've uploaded the axe, we can hit Submit, and here we go. Now, if you want to upload this guy as well, you're more than welcome to upload like an image for the inventory icon. I might actually do that. I'm going to copy this. And here we go. We now have an axe icon. So this you can kind of just get, you can basically load in a 2D sheet and then copy the URL and then put this here. You could do this in another object or you can do it in this one. It doesn't really make a difference. Okay, so in the melee weapon or the weapon, we can see or observe that the melee here is melee 500 and the radius is at 60. Now that's actually too much. So we're going to do 1 and then the offset 1. Now the unit attribute, we're going to do 10. So this will reduce by 10 health. Now let's take a look at effects. And for the on use, we're going to do swing CC. And for everything else, I believe we can just leave by default. Now, for the edit body, for the selected, we might want to change a few things. So the mount rotation, we'll do -90. For this, we will do 92. For the size, 10. And for this, we'll do 31. And then for this guy, we'll do trees, and 4 is fine. And everything else is good. And then for the collision editor, we need to make sure that all right, so we might have to actually save before we start editing this. So let's save and apply, and let's publish just to make sure. All right, so once we've done that, we now have like a legitimate axe, and we can actually just fit to render, and you could probably just leave it like this. But let's make sure that we also have collides with all these. And yeah, that's basically it. For the rest of these, we can just make sure these are all 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We can just hit save. And now let's go to our homie, or save this as well. Go to our homie and make sure that on the default items, we have the new item, or let's actually rename this to axe. Save. And that'll rename it there. Hit save. And we can't just hit play, so we have to republish once more. Okay, so we can see that the attacking does kind of work. We can see that we can actually reduce their health if we kind of do this weird little attack. At some point, it's kind of a weird... yeah, there we go. We can see its health does reduce, but obviously we can see that the axe is obviously not where we want it to be. So let's make sure that we're doing this properly. In the axe, we will go back to the body types, selected, and in the mount target, we want to make sure that we go to find and go to homie and select the bone. We're going to search up right hand. This will say Mixamo rig, right hand, hit save. And let's just make sure one more time, actually, that these are right. Okay, good. And once you've done that, you can see that the axe is now in my hand and we have a much cleaner attack. So there we go. We can now attack our sheep. with a kind of slightly delay. That's okay. That is currently being fixed. So worry too much about that. Hopefully, by the time you guys are doing this, it won't have too much of a delay. But yeah, we can attack them and almost kill them. So in the next video, we'll be taking a look at how we can actually reduce their health to zero, or I mean, what to do once their health is zero. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next video. And make sure to subscribe and like and comment down below. All right, welcome back, everyone. So in this video, what do we want to do? We want to check out, well, the deaths, right? Because right now their health is at zero, but they're not dying. That's a problem. So how do we go about this? Well, if we take a look at our low entity attributes, we already have a health variable, and this is perfect. And this is what is representing our health for our sheep and our player, which doesn't show right now, which we can actually show in the next video. I'll show you guys how to do that. But in our world script, this is where we're going to look for a unit death. Now, essentially, we're going to add a script here. Let's say new script, name this to unit death, and we will add a trigger. The trigger is going to trigger when one of the attributes changes, right? Well, the one that we want is when a unit attribute becomes zero or less, right? We have a few options of the zero or less, but like we have items, we have player, and player could work for the player, but we don't really want the player. We want the units, right? All the units, we want to check all of them. Now, after that, we need to add an if statement, because right now we know that some attribute, I don't know which one, is becoming zero or less, but we don't know which one, right? So we need to check not a Boolean comparison, but a attribute type comparison. And on the right-hand side, we'll simply select health. And then on the left-hand side, we will simply just complete this by getting the last triggered attribute. Hit OK, and there we go. Now, inside of here, we now need to add some things, right? So now that we know its health, we could just destroy entity and destroy the last triggering unit. And there we go, right? We just destroyed that unit, and this would work. Let's actually try it, right? Let's republish and see what we got. And you can see once I kill one of these sheep, if I can, please come here. There we go. It died, right? So it disappears. Okay, so that's good. It works, but we want to do more than that, right? Now, let's add a new item here. Let's add a consumable, I guess. Maybe it will be a consumable. And we're going to rename this to potato. And we're going to upload our potato from the folder that you guys downloaded from earlier. All right, so once you've done that, we'll hit submit and we'll get a potato. And for the sprite inventory, you could upload one. I don't have one, unfortunately, so I'm just going to leave it like this. I think the preview seems fine. And okay, for the body types, we're going to need to change some things. So obviously, this is not right. So let's change this to maybe like 1 for now, and we'll try that and see what it gives us. For the joint type, we'll keep that on weld. The Z index, we'll keep it on 2. And the rest, we will save first and then go back to here, go to collision editor, select this, fit rendering. Okay, that's not great. We'll say is sensor. And once we're here, we won't play around with the sizes, but we will turn on collides with sensor and we can just hit save. These are all 0. Mount target. We can put this on the homie and we can say right hand, and okay, right hand. Cool. Everything looks decent. All right, let's hit save and apply. And now what we can do is when we go to our script, we can add or create that object. We can create item at position. The item type will create a potato at the position of the last. Okay, so this is kind of awkward because, or actually, I think we say item position, sorry, and then position of the last triggering unit. Okay, there we go. Okay, now the thing is though, we don't want to create a potato on all the unit deaths, right? This doesn't really work for us. Okay, so the way we change this is we add another if statement and we say, okay, we want to check for a unit type comparison, and we're going to check for the right-hand side, we're going to change this to sheep. On the left-hand side, we're going to say last triggering unit. Okay, so now we're going to check if the last triggering unit of the last triggering, if the unit type of the last triggering unit is a sheep, we will create a potato. Otherwise, we won't do anything, but we will destroy it regardless of what unit it is. We'll hit save and apply. We can republish. And let's see if we can kill one of these sheep and get a potato. Come here. Whoa. Okay, I think it died. And we don't see a potato. So what's going on? Well, let's go to our map. And what we'll do is we'll go to the entities tool and select the potato. And I don't see anything. Okay, so we can see with the homie and the sheep, we do see an object, but we don't see anything for the potato, so that something is going on that's not right, right? Okay, let's head over to our entities, and we might have made it too small, so let's go over here and then change this back to to its original size, 3.15, 3.15, and we have to give it a depth probably, so we'll change that to the original as well. And let's give that a try once more and save and apply. And there we go. There's our potato. So, okay, that's probably too big still. So I was probably right. The size, we might want to change it to 1. If not actually smaller than that, maybe like 0.5. Let's try 0.5 here. Hit save. And let's look. Okay, so that's probably a good X and Y, but the Z is too big, right? So let's go back. Change our Z to, let's say 1. We want it to be kind of like wide, if that makes sense. Okay, that's a decent looking potato. But we do have a problem, which is that the potato is kind of in the ground, right? So let's see if we can change that. All right, so I think what we have is honestly good enough for now. So let's just test this out. So let's make sure we republished and everything. And let's save. And there we go. We picked up our potato. So there's our potato. Now it's really big because in the selected, so let's head back to the entities in the entities tab over here. The body types of the selected, we need to make sure that we have the same values. It needs to be 0.5, 0.5, and 1, I suppose. Now the mount target, we can do the same thing. We can do the homie to right. And actually, for the dropped, we'll actually remove this because we don't need that. We'll save that once more, go to the selected, and then here, yeah, we'll just do right hand. That's pretty much it. Yeah, everything else seems good. Let's hit save, save and apply, and that's it. So I select my potato. It's not as big anymore. In fact, we can't really see it, but that's okay. I think I just used it actually and ate it. So yeah, that's probably why we don't see it. Okay, and oh, there's a potato over there. And we can pick it up and could eat it. Nope. So we'll look at that later. But for now, this is pretty good. We got a pretty functional game. Now, all we need to add next is our wolf, our AI wolf. So let's do that next. All right, welcome back. So in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at some AI. Well, obviously, we already have some AI, but we're going to do some different types. Now, the type we're going to do is a wolf. So to do this, we have two options. Either we can just create one from scratch, or we could just duplicate this guy. So we can just duplicate the sheep and go into here and just rename this guy wolf. We'll head over to the AI tab. And in here, we're going to change some things. Now, instead of fleeing, we're going to fight. For wander, we can keep that. For this, we'll do 1 because that's his attack range. For the max chase, do like 18. For this, we'll leave that. For this, we can leave that. And then this, we put that on fight. Let's save. And that's kind of it. We need a few more things, but firstly, in here, let's make sure we upload our wolf. So once you've uploaded your wolf, hit submit. And here we go. There's our wolf. Now, for everything else, we can just make sure that these, are proper, so it would probably reset. So let's make sure we reset the animations. For the body types, we can do the same thing, but it seems relatively good. We could try to fit to render, or honestly, we can just turn it off, and that looks pretty good to me. Yeah, okay, let's just leave it like that. For everything else, we can just leave it and hit save. Feel free to adjust these back to its default values, which would probably be ideal. Maybe we might want to half some of these. It might be a little too big, but we can give it a try. Let's hit save. And let's see what our wolf looks like when we add it. Our map, there's a wolf. That actually doesn't look too bad because the size is pretty big, but it's fine. So let's now go over here and let's add the things we need. Now, the things we need for this to work is firstly, we need a new item that will be a melee weapon. This is going to be the melee attack. So let's rename this to melee attack. And essentially, this is going to be used as a weapon for our monsters. Now here, we can set this to 2, set this to 1. Health, we can leave it at 10. Everything else, I believe we can keep the same. For the effects, it doesn't really matter because we won't really see it. You can set the on use, but again, it probably won't even be noticeable. So here we can just hit save and apply. In our wolf, we go to the default items and set the melee attack. Now our wolf should be able to attack using that new melee weapon. But additionally, we do need to set some things. Now, the things that we need to set are essentially in the player types. In the player types, right now we have, these are the defaults, right? But these aren't exactly what we want. So for the NPC, I'm going to actually change this. Neutral creeps. There we go. Neutral creeps. Neutral. There we go. Neutral creeps. We'll leave everything as is, I believe, for now. And we can just show name label, say false. And yeah, just hit save. There we go. And we'll add a new one. And the new one that we're going to add is for hostile. So this will be over here for hostile creeps. Now for this guy, we're actually going to save it for now, but we'll come back to it. But now we have a few things. But now we will also want, this is for later, but we might as well add it now, resources. We're going to add a resources tab that will basically be for resources like trees and stuff. So let's add this as well. But the more important one is in the hostile creeps, we want to set the hostility. So we want to set this to hostile to human players and hostile to neutral creeps. So we can hit save. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We can head over to the script. And if we recall, so here we have this guy. So create a potato. We can actually just delete this. We don't need this. Let's delete this action. But here we assign player AI 1, but that's not right because we don't want player 1 AI. So let's head over to our global variables where we have our global variables, right? So in here, we're going to do a similar thing, but we're going to change this actually to AI hostile. I'm going to create a new one, AI neutral. And lastly, AI resources. And for the resources, we can simply do player, but we're going to do computer 2. This one, same thing, player, but we'll do computer 3. And there we go. We can just close this. But now, obviously, we have a few problems. So here, for example, we need to change this to neutral creeps because we're spawning neutral creeps. In here, we're going to spawn this sheep. We're going to do AI neutral. And now you can imagine, though, we want a wolf. How do we spawn the wolf? Well, it's easy. We can just copy and paste this, actually. Pop this over here. And instead of doing 20 wolves is a little too much. Maybe we'll do like 1. Honestly, we'll do 1 for now. And then sheep, we'll change that to wolf. And then obviously over here, we want to create a wolf, not a sheep. And we're not going to do an AI neutral. We're going to do AI hostile. There we go. And obviously, I think we should delete this little text thing. If you have that already, don't add that or just delete it. But we'll also go over here and we want to assign the AI hostile as well, right? So here we need to do the AI hostile, do the neutral creeps, hostile creeps. Yep. And that's it. Now in the player here, this is where it's assigning the human players. So we don't really need to do anything else. Now for Now, kind of to recap, essentially, here we're creating a sheep for the AI neutral. And in the initialize, the AI neutral is being set to the neutral creeps. And then same thing for hostile, right? The AI hostile is being set into the hostile creeps, into the player types. And this is where the magic happens, essentially, where we can set different things like the hostility to each other. And the more important one is the hostile creeps needs to be hostile towards human players. So let's save and apply and publish and give this a try. All right, so once we've republished, we can see that our wolf is there, but he doesn't really attack. It kind of attacks, but not really. Now, the reason it's not really working is in our wolf, unfortunately, the sensor, it just isn't really picking up, essentially. Like, there's no sensor, really. So to fix this, what we're going to do is we're going to create our own sensor. So let's head over to the collisions, and we can see, first of all, that this guy is not really proper. So we're going to leave that like that. And we're going to add a circle. All right, there we go. We got one. So let's select this guy. All right, so once we've added a square or a little box here, we can add this in. Obviously, this is probably too big, maybe. But for the offset, let's actually just reset everything to 0. I don't know why I'm trying to do it manually. Okay, there we go. What we can do here is we can just reduce the radius just a little bit, maybe to like 30, maybe a little more, maybe a little more. We'll just do like 10. I think 10 is good. All right, so once we've done that, we can turn the is sensor on, and this is now our sensor. So we can just hit save, 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 and reapply. All right, and there we go. Now he's chasing me right now, but I guess I can just let him chase me. It's fine. So right now we have health, but it's invisible. So I don't actually know if I'll die, but you can see he is hitting the other sheep if we kind of get in the way. So we can see he does AoE attack essentially. There we go. So yeah, he does now attack us. All right, and that's it for the AI. And I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, welcome back, everyone. So, there's just before we get started, there's a few things we want to like change and add. Specifically, we want to be able to have the player take damage, and right now, you guys might not have this. So to fix this, it's a little buggy right now. So to kind of fix our issue, okay, our body type for our player needs to have gravity affected, and for our collision editor, we need to make sure that it kind of covers the entire body of the player, specifically its feet. Okay, so just make sure we have that, and then additionally for the health, we can turn on the display for these, and that's pretty much it. So now we can see our health bar, and eventually we can die. So go back here, die to our wolf here. Nothing happens, obviously, right? So that's kind of going into the next part of our video is we want to respawn, right? Okay, so let's head over to our entities tab, and this is where the magic will happen. So in our environments tab here, we're going to add some attributes. The first attribute we're going to add is attributes. We're going to add a respawn timer. Now this respawn timer is going to help us essentially just spawn, right? For the regenerative speed, we need to set this to some number. We're going to do 5. And then for the rest of these, we can just keep false and just hit save. And that's it. But now we need to actually make this work, right? So how do we do that? Well, in our player here, or in our world script, sorry, we're going to go to unit death, and we're going to copy this and paste. And instead of a sheep, we're obviously going to now check for homie. So if our homie dies, what we can do is we'll move it up. If our homie dies, I'm just going to delete this. We don't actually need that. We will make We'll drop items, drop all items, and we can say last triggering unit and just hit OK. And then right above that, we will add a new one that is set player attribute value. And we can go to the attribute value, set the respawn timer of the last triggering the owner unit first, and then we will say of a unit will be then the last triggering unit. And as the number, we'll put it as 0. So this will essentially start our timer. All right. So now what we need to do is actually respawn him. Right. So what happens when it's full? Right. So let's add a new script here and rename this to player respawn. And this will trigger when a player's attribute becomes full. So the attribute we're looking for, obviously, is the respawn timer. So what we can do here is we can actually cheat a little bit and just copy this and paste. And obviously, we don't need any of these below. Yeah, no, we don't need any of these, especially this one. And obviously, instead of health, we're going to look for, yeah, you got it, respawn timer. There we go. So now we add the respawn, or we're checking for the respawn timer. And then once the respawn timer is full, we will simply create, we'll create unit at position. The unit that we're going to create is obviously the homie for the player, but not a tie neutral. We're going to do last triggering player. There we go. At random position in region, but the region we're going to do is entire map region and then facing 0. And that's it. Now, but there is one more thing we need to do. If we actually go back to the player joined, here we have this camera that gets locked onto our player. So we need to copy this and just paste it right under. Okay, we now have our player track on top of our player, and that's it. So now let's give this a try. Let's hit save and republish. Okay, I said to republish and everything, but I realized we are not done because we never assigned that attribute to our player. And we can do that through our player type. So we'll go to human players. Over here in attributes, we can simply add the respawn timer and set this to 100 by default because we don't want it. Or sorry, actually, we're going to leave it at 0. What am I saying? We're going to just leave it at 0. And yeah, that's it. So let's make sure that we have 5 as a regenerative speed. And yeah, there we go. So now let's save. And then we'll try one more time. Okay, so on the bottom right, we can see the respawn timer is counting up to 100. And once it spawns at 100, I'm alive. And there we go. So we're now alive and we can start playing our game again, attacking the wolf and killing it. Okay, we now have a pretty cool game. And that's pretty much it. Now, for the next part, we're going to add some resources. So we're going to add a tree, add some rocks and spawn them in and able to farm them as well. All right, welcome back. So let's continue on with our resources. So what we want to do first is obviously set up our resources because right now we don't have any, right? So let's do that. Let's head over to the units and we will create a new unit. And this will be a collider object. We can head over to the name and rename this to rock. And we can go to the cell sheet, upload from computer, and let's upload our rock. Once we've done that and we have our rock here, we can simply say, it depends. We can increase the health if we want. I'm going to actually leave it as 100. The speed, obviously, like that doesn't even matter. We could even just remove it. But also for the collision editor, we might actually want to add this guy, make it a little bigger. Let's maybe say fit rendering. And there we go. Hit save, and then save and reinitialize. And let's do the same thing, but let's actually go to the scripts here and just delete these. I don't need this. And let's duplicate our rock. And make this a tree. we'll upload, whoops, that's preview. We'll upload our tree. And there we go. There's our tree. Now what we can do is start adding these in spawn. So to do this, we will now need to go to our world script. And in here, we could add it through the maps. And that could actually work perfectly fine. But what we'll do is we're going to add a new action here and simply say repeat X times. Here we can do 20. Actually, let's do like 3 for now, just because our map is starting to get pretty full and we don't have space anymore. We will create unit at position. The unit type, we're going to create a rock first. The player, we're going to do AI neutral. At position, we can simply say random position in region. We're going to pick a random region in the entire map, facing 0, and simply hit OK. And simply copy and paste. Move this to the left. But here, instead of rock, we're going to create a tree. All right, let's hit republish and see what we get. Okay, so now we can see we have some rocks and we have some trees, but there's some obvious issues. First of all, the tree, because we duplicated it, the body type needs to change back to its original values. So let's do that. 5.19, 4.79, and this one will be 12.04. 4, or we'll just do 12, honestly, it's fine. Okay, and from there, we will also go into our collision editor and make sure that this guy collides with everything. And then we'll just hit save for now. Hit save, reapply and initialize. Go back to our tree, go back to the body type, and hit this guy. And make sure it's a little higher. And that seems good. I could even make it a little higher. Yeah, that looks good. We'll hit save and save. Okay, let's do the same thing for the rock. Whoa, the tree is moving. That's crazy. All right, so let's do the same thing here. We'll move this up. And we will have this. Actually, we'll have it only collide with the items. We don't want these guys to move, actually. So go back to the rock. Or sorry, go back to the tree, body type, collision editor, and turn everything else off. Because units, meaning it will be able to move it. So we'll just leave it as is. Okay. Now we need to actually be able to like mine these guys, right? So how do we do that? Well, in our attributes, we would head over to attributes, and we can add a stone attribute. And this one we can have for the max. We can simply do like basically an infinite number. Everything else we can leave it at 0. For everything else here, maybe we can turn on display value there, and that's it. And for the rest of this, you could change the color if you'd like. Actually, you know what? I might as well change it. Maybe let's change it to like a brownish color. That's not really brown, but yeah, let's see if we can get brown. Be kind of like orange yellowish. All right, close enough. Although that should probably be for the tree, to be honest, but it's okay. All right, so same thing for the wood. So we'll do wood here. Initial value 0, max 99999. And then here we can maybe do the same thing, just like a darkish color. Hit save. Actually, one thing I forgot to do, display the value. Save again. And there we go. So now what we can do is, how do we actually mine this? Well, that's where we need to actually bring in collision. So what we'll do is head over to the world script, make a new script, create a script called gather resources. And what we can do is have a trigger that happens when a unit gets attacked. When a unit gets attacked, we will add new action or add add new action, but we'll say if else. And in this condition, we're going to do a unit type comparison. The unit we're going to check for is a tree first, and then the unit type of the last attacked unit. If the last attacked unit is a tree, we'll do something. Well, what are we going to do? Well, this is actually kind of easy. Let's cheat a little bit and go over here, copy this, and paste this. We're going to set the, not the respawn timer, obviously, but the wood of the last attacking unit this time, though. Here, we're going to change this to attacking unit because the player is the one attacking. Now, we're not going to do as 0 because obviously that doesn't make sense. We want to do a addition, right? So essentially, we're going to calculate on the right-hand side, we're going to add 1. But on the left-hand side, we need to get the current, like how much wood does our current have, right? So get the function, we need to say attribute value. We're going to get our current attribute value of the wood of the current player. So we're going to do owner of a unit of the last attacking unit. If you remember, the last attacking unit, we're going to get his wood and add 1. Hit OK. And now what we can do is copy, we'll paste it over here, but we're going to change the tree to stone. OK. And then here, same thing. Set the stone, stone, and that's good. All right, let's republish and see what we get. Okay, so again, I keep making this mistake. Hopefully you guys have caught on by now, but we did not actually assign the values, the attributes to our player. We need to give the player stone, initial value 0, that's good, and wood, right? Because we never gave him any of these, obviously. So let's do that. Hit save and close and just hit play. And I lied, we have to republish. All right, so now we have our values on the bottom right, and we should be able to head over to the tree and start hitting it. And it doesn't seem to be working, so let's check out what's going on. Okay, so I made a little mistake here in the code. Here we're doing the owner of the last attacking unit, which I thought I did, but I must have done it as by accident. So let's make sure we change that to the last attacking unit. All right, so let's hit OK for everything and make sure we save and apply. And let's close and publish and try one more time. All right, so let's go see if we can attack our stone. And there we go. We now can gather resources from the stone. And eventually it should actually die. And we don't have any respawning, unfortunately. So that's kind of it, actually. So for the wood and stone, though, do make sure you add the collision properly. So for the rock, I did change some of the attributes a little. I made sure that the z-index is on the floor. And for the collision editor, I just changed it to generate collider from here. And again, turn these on or off. But the important one is the items. And that's it. So make sure you have the collision properly set, and you should be able to have proper mining. So enjoy, guys, and I will see you guys in the next video.